So welcome everybody to the Great Neighborhood Summit. We are so excited to have you guys here. This has been a project that's been 1 year in the making at least. And so we are so excited to be able to share this with you guys, talk about what we've been doing, and of course, take any questions that you guys have that we can answer. Let's start our presentation formally. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. Like I said, we want to welcome everybody to the Great Neighborhood Summit. This is our folded map project that we are officially releasing to our community partners, to our neighborhoods, and we're excited to share this with you guys tonight. To make your summit experience a little bit better, if you could go to the top right hand of your screen where it says view and click on speaker view. That way, when we get to a part of the presentation where it's going to be more of an interview panel discussion, you'll be able to see the speaker that's speaking at the moment at the top part of your screen. If you're not able to do that, it's fine. It'll still work. It just makes it a little bit more convenient. So again, if you go to the top right part of your screen, you'll see something that says view, click on view. And then what you're going to want to do is hit speaker view. So the person who's speaking is at the center of your screen, and it just makes it a little easier to follow along. At this time, I'd like to make sure that everybody keeps themselves on mute until it is question and answer time. If you do have a burning question as we're moving through our presentation, feel free to drop it in the chat and we'll make sure that it gets it addressed. I want to thank my volunteer, Spitty. He will be monitoring the chat for us tonight. So feel free to put anything in there as we go along. Definitely keep yourself on mute. That way any background noise won't be heard as we're going through the presentation. At this time, I want to thank our sponsors, Associated Bank especially. They are the key sponsor for our Great Neighborhood Summit tonight. And they are also a key partner with the Folded Map Project. And so we are so grateful for their support to us. I'd also like to thank Members Alliance Credit Union. They have been a great supporter of Great Neighborhoods and our summits as well. They are also the sponsor of the $250 gift cards that we will be drawing tonight. And so we are thankful to Members Alliance Credit Union for sponsoring those gift cards. I absolutely want to thank our partners who have been involved with the Folded Map from the very beginning. We'd like to thank the Rockford Park District, Our Savior's Lutheran Church, Mount Zion Baptist Church, and Transform Rockford. And we especially want to thank our two guests today that you'll hear more from the Folded Map Project out of Chicago. It's been this group that has gotten us to where we're at today and all the exciting things to come. So thank you to all of our partners for your support and help on the Folded Map Project. For those of you who don't know who we are, Great Neighborhoods is a project that came out of Transform Rockford, and our mission is to bring neighborhoods together, help them understand who they are and what they have to offer, and empower them to work together on shared goals and actions. We also work to promote neighborhoods through marketing and branding initiatives as well. Here are just some of the ways that we help neighborhoods. This is not an exhaustive list by any means, but these are some of the key things that we help neighborhoods with. And what I want to focus on tonight is at the bottom, you'll see something highlighted that says connect neighbors. So one of the most important things that we can do as a community is not only connect with our neighbors inside our neighborhood, but to connect neighborhoods with one another. And that is one of the main reasons why we connected with the Folded Map Project, is because it was a resource that helped connect neighborhoods and people together. And you'll hear more about that in just a minute. So at this time, I am going to stop sharing for a moment and bring up our video. The video that I'm going to show you guys tonight is a CBS Spotlight video. And it's going to give you some context about the Folded Map Project and a little bit more about Tanika Johnson, who's the founder and creator of the Folded Map Project. So please let me know if the sound doesn't come through on here, but I think we should be good. Okay, hopefully everybody can see my screen and we'll be able to hear the video.
Our series, A More Perfect Union, aims to show that what unites us as Americans is far greater than what divides us. And this morning, we're showing you a new approach to bridging divides in Chicago. Neighborhoods from the city's north and south sides are banding together to take on some very deeply rooted issues. The differences between these communities, they are stark. But as Adriana Diaz shows us, together they are tackling segregation and the inequity that comes with it.
Do you have any of those posters left?
Yeah, I do. Chicago residents Nanette Tucker and Wade Wilson share a love of gardening and craft beer.
That would be kind of cool.
That would be cool.
They're like neighbors, sort of.
Wade is called your map twin. Why are you guys twins? We're twins because when you follow the map, we touch one another on the map, north and south.
Like many cities, Chicago's a grid with many streets spanning north to south. If you fold a map of the city in half, you can match addresses on the north side with the same block on the south side.
You lived all your life never thinking you had a twin. And now
I have one.
yes.
They live about 15 miles apart, but Wilson and his wife Jennifer live in the majority white north side neighborhood of Edgewater, while Tucker is in the mostly black south side neighborhood of Englewood.
How would you explain the differences between both of your neighborhoods, which are essentially equidistant from the center, but worlds apart in many ways?
It's very clear that neighborhoods primarily on the north side have had more investment. Everything from the street lighting to grocery stores and restaurants. It's plentiful on the north side, and it's not here.
It's almost like you feel a light come on at a certain spot when you're going north. And when you're coming back south, you can feel the gloom that's upon us in Englewood.
Curiosity.
They met through Tonika Lewis Johnson, a social justice artist who grew up in Englewood, a community often in the news.
2 mass shootings on
Shot
Chicago.
in the head this
Drive-by shooting claims the life of a 15-year-old boy in West Englewood.
Lewis Johnson created the Folded Map Project, which includes this film, to change the conversation. She contrasts how the same street, like Ashland Avenue,
They look very different.
looks on the north side
The sidewalks,
and the south side.
the maintenance of the building, none of which have anything to do with gun violence. Only disinvestment.
Chicago's segregation is due in part to racist policies like redlining, where banks would designate properties in minority areas, delineated in red, as too risky for mortgage lending, excluding Black Americans from a primary pathway of building wealth, home ownership.
You have neighborhoods that are predominantly Black that have low home ownership as a result of the discriminatory practices. Businesses left, so you don't have a business corridor, so therefore you don't have jobs. And now the schools are starting to fail because they aren't properly funded.
Her solution, bring the North and the South together with map twins.
It can feel so overwhelming to try to take on systemic racism, but you have found a way to almost chip away at it one person at a time, one pair at a time.
Yes. Let's use segregation as the actual thing that can connect us.
In her project, she doesn't shy away from uncomfortable truths.
How much was your home?
It was $61,000.
And how much was your home?
$535,000.
You asked Wade and Nanette what they each paid for their house. You know, it felt a little awkward.
I think the awkwardness helps people understand how we're all participating in this system that was created before us. And it doesn't truly reflect how we want to connect with each other today.
Frankly, we're privileged, and it's hard to sit next to a friend who hasn't enjoyed that privilege. We realize that there's an opportunity to actually do something.
Wilson and Tucker are doing something together. 3 years after they met through the Folded Map Project, with others they created Englewood Renaissance, which is helping beautify parts of Englewood and is now focusing on increasing homeownership here.
Creating a community together. The economics might be different. The neighborhoods might be different. But the core of who I am it's pretty much the same as Wade and Jennifer. I want the same things they want.
For CBS This Morning, Adriana Diaz, Chicago.
This is such an important story.
Yes.
It is such an important story. You have the same street and the different economic values and why that's happened. And
the difference in the numbers, Anthony.
Yeah.
61,000 versus 500,000 plus. But it's a perfect example to show that story on the same day that we did the 110 project.
Exactly.
Because it shows you that it starts there.
Yes.
And that's why this disparity and pointing out the disparity. Because I know there are many white people look and say, well, I don't have the privilege either.
This is not ancient. It shows it's not ancient history.
No.
The legacy of these practices from the mid-century are with us today, and they will continue to be with us because the value of these homes is the value of these homes.
Yeah.
And the question now, as we become aware of it, is what are we going to do about it?
And recognizing that it is an issue.
Yeah.
It is a major,
Well,
major
and as
problem
long
in
as
this country.
that as long as that economic disparity continues to exist, you will have these differences will
Yeah,
persist.
so much more than planting a garden together.
Yeah.
That's very lovely, but it's so much more than that.
Is running for his second term. The former San Francisco mayor was elected governor.
Okay, thank you so much for watching that. Again, we just wanted to give you some context about where did the folded map idea come from and what is the purpose and the spirit behind folded map. And so let me share my screen again and get us back on track with the presentation. And so for Great Neighborhoods, we were looking for a way to connect with neighborhoods that were different from one another, neighborhoods that were different racially and economically different from one another. And this project came to us, and we went through a lot of variations of this project. We were thinking about matching neighborhoods. We thought about matching schools. We thought about matching businesses. And so we landed on matching churches together. And specifically 2 churches that were staples in their neighborhood, and to some degree they had congregants that actually lived in the neighborhood. So that was kind of our sweet spot. So congregants that lived in the neighborhood and attended the church. And so that's when we approached our 2 churches, which was Our Savior's Lutheran Church and Mount Zion Baptist Church. Pastor Hightower and Pastor Rob James, they have been so great working with us. They jumped on board of this right away. You'll be able to hear a little bit more from both of them further down into the conversation here, but they were ready to put action behind the words that we always talk about. How can we connect with people? How can we build relationships with people? And so they signed up to be a part of our pilot to do the folded map project here in Rockford. Now you'll see that it just so happens where they land on the map that if you folded our map, they would probably touch one another. It was interesting though, through our journey as we approached different churches in our community, we didn't get people to sign up right away. And so we did get to a point that even if they didn't match exactly on a map, anybody who was willing to be a part of this pilot, we were just going to go with it. But the way that it worked out this way was fantastic. And so you can kind of see where they landed on the map. The colors that you see is the parameters that we kind of built around the church. And that is where our volunteers came in. Our volunteers were asked to do a number of things, but one of the main things that we asked them to do was to walk in one another's neighborhoods. And they all did it together. Both neighborhoods walked each other's neighborhoods together. And we wanted them to walk in a neighborhood with the idea that I lived here, not walk in a different neighborhood as a visitor, but if I was somebody who lived here, and to come from that perspective. And then we started talking about and thinking about what would it be like to go grocery shopping if you needed to run to a supermarket, if you needed to go to a bank or an ATM to take $20 out, what was that experience like? And so we all met together and we all talked about how this was going to look. The cool thing about this project is that our volunteers and our two churches were at the center. They were the ones driving the conversation, driving the activities, and definitely the ones who are pointing us on what we want to do next as a group. And so that is to be determined as far as a project or whatever they decide. But I can tell you what has come from this so far is relationship. When we got back together after everybody walked in the neighborhoods, we asked, what is it that you want to do next? And they said, we want to get to know each other on a deeper level. And so we took a field trip together to the Ethnic Heritage Museum. That's where they picked. And then the things to follow are more activities, potlucks, and more opportunities to do things with the churches themselves. And so at this time, I am going to turn it over to Tanika Johnson. She is going to be moderating our panel today. So outside of Tanika Johnson, I will also be a part of the panel. I do have to mention Tanika's right-hand woman, and that's Professor Maria, I always say her name wrong, Kreisen. She's a professor of sociology at the University of Illinois, Chicago. And she's also the director of curriculum and strategic partnerships with the Folded Map. So I know she's in the background here, but I had to give her a shout out because she has done such great mentorship with us and has helped us so much along the way. The other person who will be a part of our panel is Tim Bragg. He is a park planner with the Rockford Park District. And then we have Pastor Marvin Hightower from Mount Zion Baptist Church. He will also be a part of the panel as well. So you'll be able to hear from each one of those. So Tanika, I'm going to turn it over to you and let's get started.
Hi, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here with you all and to finally meet the Map Twin churches and to have you represent them. Pastor Hightower is so amazing, and I'm looking forward to just getting to know you all and to share space with you again, Tim. And so I just would like to first let everyone know that this was a special collaboration because Folded Map is rooted in Chicago's grid map culture and basically history of segregation here in Chicago. So to have the project expand beyond Chicago to Rockford is something that is really touching for me, because not only is it highlighting the issues within Chicago, but also the disconnection and the segregation between the large city Chicago and Rockford. And so I really appreciate you all helping expand the breadth of this project by making it more inclusive to, help people understand the disparity and difference not only within Rockford, but also between, large metropolitan cities and smaller ones within Illinois. And that is something that I have been recently made even more aware of. And I just appreciate you all teaching me something as well, my very Chicago-centric view of things. And I'm so delighted to be connected with you all and to learn how all of this went. So I guess I just want to hop right into it and ask Pastor Hightower, why? What made you interested in saying yes to this weird little project? What about it made you just want to be involved?
Thank you, Tanika. And we as a church I've been involved in several outreach programs that has tried to connect the city on different projects. This one appealed to me after being approached by a similar project that kind of fell apart. And the idea of being in each other's neighborhood and get perspective from the people that actually live there. That was unique. I thought that brought something to the table that the other projects that we were involved in did not. It was almost like an outside presence trying to change what was in the neighborhood instead of the neighborhood having the input. So when Sarah brought that to us, it was just right on time. The other projects had fell apart, and it really appealed to me that she was actually asking the faith-based community to get involved with community. And so that was unique to me.
Wow, I have so many questions already, but I do want to give space for us to share with you all Pastor Rob's answer to this very question. Unfortunately, he is not able to be with us because he is overseas right now. So in lieu of him being here, we have a video of him answering that question that we would like to share with you. And then I will jump right back into the many questions I have for Pastor Hightower.
All right, let me pull that up for you guys.
Hello, my name is Rob James. Sorry that I can't be with you all tonight. My family and I have been in the Rockford area for 16 years, just over 16 years. In September of 2020, I was called to be the senior pastor of our Savior's Lutheran Church in Rockford, Illinois. Grateful to be here and to be serving in this way. Obviously, that was the middle of COVID, which has been interesting. But as we were moving forward through COVID, we started planning for a community neighborhood event at our property to invite our neighbors to come and have some fun, some fellowship, to get outside and to meet one another. And in that, one of my members connected with me with Sierra at Great Neighborhoods. And as the two of us got to know each other and talk about our shared passion for community, for outreach, for being good neighbors, she shared with me the Folded Map Project and how there was a group working together to try and figure out how we could bring the Folded Map Project to Rockford, and asked if our Saviors would be interested in being a part of it. The interesting thing was that they already had Pastor Hightower and Mount Zion Baptist committed to that project, and as we looked at the map, saw that our Saviors and Mount Zion are about 3.6 miles, almost due east-west of each other. We all, of course, know that one of the great divisions that is talked about in Rockford is an east-west division. And so I knew that this was a great opportunity for me as a pastor to be in a new relationship, to learn, to grow, but also know that it's a great opportunity for our congregation. Our neighborhood here has changed a lot around Rural Street, and yet our congregation doesn't reflect the changes that we see when we drive around the blocks around our property. And so part of that is knowing that we need to help people, push people to be in new relationships, help create opportunities, and help challenge us to grow and to go beyond what may be a comfort zone issue so that we can meet other neighbors and learn to see how we are all created in God's image. And so it's been a wonderful journey to become a part of the Folded Map Project here in Rockford. With the team that's been leading that, as we've brought now 4 volunteers from our Saviors and a group of volunteers from Mount Zion Baptist together, and we've eaten together and shared our stories with one another, walked each other's neighborhoods, learned about how we see so much similarities and a little bit of differences in those neighborhoods. And so it's been a joy to just see those relationships develop. Obviously, like everybody else, right? It feels like there's too much pulling at our time and not enough time to be able to just go deeper in those relationships too often. But Pastor Hightower and I have enjoyed getting to know each other more and are looking forward to opportunities to do a pulpit swap, to have him come and preach here and for me to be able to go and preach at Mount Zion. For our congregations to find ways to connect and get to know each other through shared ministry. So we've learned a lot already as we've been in this project and have great hope still of how we can bring people together to build new relationships, to see our similarities, to see each other as neighbors from 3.6 miles away or wherever we're at in town. So I'm looking forward to continuing to move in this. And we know that relationships take time and relationships don't happen overnight. So this is a long commitment of how we can continue to just be together and be present with one another and get to know one another as these two communities come together. So looking forward to more. Sorry that I can't be with you tonight, and hope to talk more about this in the future. Blessings.
Ika, real quick, I just wanted to let you know that Pastor Hightower does have one of our volunteers sitting with him. So in case, you have some questions tied around that, he does have one of the volunteers from the folded map, the residents that did the walking and things like that.
Oh my gosh. Oh, well, hello, and I would love to know your name so we can bring you on into the conversation.
My name is Pearline Pureford.
Miss Pearline.
I've been in the neighborhood for about 47 years. I have seen it grow and seen it not grow. So,
well, we can just go right on in. Maybe even just start with you, Miss Pearline. You just told us you've been in the community for over 40 years, close to 50 years.
Pretty close.
So, wow, that's an amazing amount of knowledge and history. So, can you explain why you wanted to kind of help move this experience forward, and why was it important to you?
To see some changes in the neighborhood, see more stores in the neighborhood, a bigger supermarket, which we don't have, stuff like that. Just the neighbors that I have, a lot of them been there for a long time also. They know practically everyone in the neighborhood, except for the newcomers.
Right. And so Pastor Hightower and Miss Pearline, it makes complete sense why you felt connected with this different aspect of outreach and connection. But could you explain some of the differences that exist in the neighborhoods that inspired you to want to have this type of experience? Miss Pearline, you talked about supermarket, you all needing a supermarket. So just the differences between the two communities. Can you just let me know what that looks like? I am, assuming that it is also a racial difference as well, but could you just explain the differences between the communities?
I think they get more funding and more grants that we get for homeowners, that do different things to their homes and stuff. So I think, on the other side do things that we need in the neighborhood. This year they have kind of stepped up, putting in sidewalks and did some streets, which make it look very nice. Was putting the road through West State and extending it further out west. So, You can go now, it's look very nice, and that been for a long time that we need all of this. So, I guess we'll get more and more as the time go on, because now they are aware of that we are missing a lot of stuff, things in this area.
Yeah, I just to add with that, that was one of the things that kind of drew us to the project, is highlighting those differences that we just normally saw. When you drive from the east side to the west side, that was a notable difference in the community, around the church. Mount Zion has taken on the initiative to do a lot of work around the church. And I get a lot of compliments on us, what we've done around the church, but it also highlights what's going on in the rest of the community. And to bring, notoriety to that difference. And like Sister Pearl said, you know the difference in the investment that has been put in the houses and the streets and just the neighborhood in general. We don't have a difference in like age group. A lot of the retirees live around the neighborhood, around our Savior, and likewise around our neighborhood. So you would say that the same investment should have been in the neighborhoods at the same time, but it's not. And so to be able to bring that and bring notoriety to that, that's what drew me in. The possibility of someone seeing it and it just not being overlooked.
No, I appreciate you saying that, because what you're talking about is the exact reason that I created the project. Because I was also, I was a young girl going from my neighborhood to a predominantly white neighborhood for school. And that's when I noticed the difference in how neglected my community was. And it made me want to, just like you, kind of bring awareness to this, but in a way that wasn't necessarily divisive, because I had went to a high school that was really diverse, and I had amazing friendships with people of different races and nationalities, and it enabled me to kind of see how segregation and ultimately systemic racism and disinvestment kept us apart, but also it kept people from understanding what Black communities were struggling with. And so I want to use this as an opportunity for maybe you all to explain what you all did together. And I know you went on a trip together, you did a walking tour together, but after those walking tours, maybe describe how those conversations went, or what were some of the realizations that came about, and how you all handled, kind of processing, seeing those differences and talking about it. Because I know one of the things in the Folded Map Project, I recorded those conversations, and I jokingly refer to those conversations, those recorded conversations, as social justice reality TV, because sometimes people don't have the language or familiarity with how to talk about what they've observed and the very clear, distinct difference. So how did you all handle that, and what did you all do after those walking tours and those field trips?
So we came back together, and what was interesting that came out for me was that we did have a lot of similarities. We connected on a lot of issues. We talked about a lot of the same concerns in our areas, and the need for more, I would say, neighborhood association presence that was the other neighborhood versus ours. But yeah, came back together and talked about what came out of the walk. We saw some similarities, but we definitely saw the difference in the investment on this one side versus the other.
So it's, you know, forgive us for not being able to like stream Pastor Rob in, but maybe you could speak on his behalf, and maybe this will be a great time to invite Tim into the conversation, you know, but to just be very frank, you know, how would you say your interpretation of Pastor Rob and you know, the people involved from the walking tour from his church, how do you feel they received becoming aware of those differences? Like, what was some of their reactions from your point of view?
I thought he definitely prayed about who to bring to the table.
Prayer is necessary. You have to have those with a compassionate, open heart.
Great group. We actually connected pretty good right away. Pastor Rob and myself, we actually did a couple of things, a couple of outings that we both enjoy a lot, and that's eating.
Food is the great connector.
So yeah, it very open. And I think it was an eye-opener on both accounts, because we actually got to see some similarities, you know, some things that were the same in the neighborhoods. Again, for lack of investment, it just stood out, and they also got to see that. So, and we shared family stories. We really connected well, I thought.
I thought too. It was a very nice group. And like I said, some of the concerns that we had on this side of town that they had over there also with as the neighborhood get older, you know, and the younger people, they kind of move away. We have saw, like she was saying, a lot of some of the houses kind of deteriorate, you know, where the elderly people didn't have funds that, you know, to do what they need to do to their houses and stuff. I thought there was a very nice group of people that, you know, we could talk and relate to each other about, from eating to everything else, you know. So I thought it was a very good group of people that, you know, that we all met together and we did connect, and it was nice.
So you all were able to highlight that being a population that is older, that both neighborhoods were struggling with, you know, the fact that you need more, both neighborhoods need more assistance with like maintaining homes and things like that. And was the other community surprised at all by the severity of the disinvestment that they saw in the neighborhood that you all are in?
Yeah, I think we had more, you know, like homes that was like, had left in ruins, and they did, but they had some, you know, in their neighborhood. So it was, we just had more. You know, it was still a similarity to both neighborhoods. And they also talked about their stores that they had, because they had a big grocery store and it went out of business. We had one that wasn't too far from us that left and went out of business. So now we got smaller grocery stores that, you know, for all the people on this side of the town, you know. About that, we had bigger grocery store for the produce area. You know, we are limited to that unless we go quite a ways to a bigger store. Lost a store, we lost ours over on, you know, on this side of town. So we had that in common, and we talked about, you know, houses, some houses in certain areas had decayed. So that in common, you know.
Was there anything that you all saw in their neighborhood that surprised you? Or you feel like, oh no, we know all of this. Basically, we know all of this and we want some of this.
Right. Well, no, not really, because, you know, I kind of, like I said, I've been in Rockford for so long. I've been in a lot of the neighborhoods, and they all similar. You know, you have some problems in every neighborhood, you know, with houses and streets and sidewalks and stuff have deteriorated. But yeah, I wasn't surprised in their area because I go over on that side quite often. And no, I wasn't. So
now, do a lot of the residents around your church, do they frequently go to the other neighborhood because of what they don't have in there around them? Or is that just pretty much you, Miss Perline, because you get around? You say, I'm going to go to a lot of different neighborhoods. Or do people pretty much stay in their own neighborhoods?
well, they travels. They, you know, like we have to go to malls or go, you know, like across the river to other places that we don't have on this side of the river. You know, we don't have you know, like a strip mall or stuff like that. We don't have that. So we have to go a little ways to get to it. I either go across the river to go on the other side of town.
Okay.
More, you know, more places like that, more places where you can sit down and have dinner, you know, and stuff like that.
Miss
One of the
Tanika?
most, yes.
Sorry, I do have a question in the chat for Pastor Hightower.
Oh, yes, I see that. Someone would like to know, actually, yes, someone would like to know, Pastor Hightower, if you define whether lack of investment relates to business ventures or city infrastructure improvements.
I would say both. We have a lot of land on the west side that could be developed into businesses. And if the infrastructure was, I would say the same as it has been, the investment of that had been the same down through the years, then maybe this side would be just as appealing for businesses to come and to invest on this side. Lack of opportunity and investment in business and business opportunity work lead to a lot of the problems on this side also. If you don't have the money, you can't invest in your own home, or you can't buy your own home. And so, yeah, I would say both. A lack of care from investing in the infrastructure and the lack of business opportunities for businesses to locate over here on this side.
And one of the more interesting things about this version of folded map is the idea of a pulpit swap. I think that is fascinating. I know traditionally churches might do that, but under the experience or through the experience of folded map, I think that is beautiful, and I wanted to kind of get your reaction, or if you could just even explain how that came about, and would, what would influence, or if this experience would influence maybe even what your sermon is about. But how did you all land at pulpit swap?
Well, when you get two preachers together.
That's the next step.
The next step. No, we had a conversation, and we thought it would be great and a great opportunity for Pastor Rob to come here and to get to experience Mount Zion, and vice versa, me go over and see how he performs on a Sunday morning. We met outside of church, but
yes,
now we said that next step should be, let's take it a little bit further and see how it would be and how would we be received.
I was just going to get to that. Folded map pulpit swap. So are there any pointers you all have to give each other based off of this?
Time. Pastor Rob has time. He's shorter.
So
I have to
each congregation will have to be immersed in the cultural difference of time.
Yes. We laughed about that. So, but yeah, we talked about really creating from the walk itself and what came out of it, trying to put some sermons together based upon that connection. And we've talked a little bit about that and shared some things, and I think we're about ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to kind of, explore, more of the takeaways, just for each of you all personally. I don't want you to name or speak ill of the other projects that fell apart, but if you could, elaborate more on the difference between what was missing from the other projects that kind of fell apart, that really was, that really was spoken to in this particular experience through Folded Map. You mentioned that it was kind of coming from the people within the community as opposed to outsiders coming in. So could you, share how this experience felt different, or was actually just different from what you had experienced before in other projects? How did Pastor Rob's community kind of not resemble that of the other projects?
Yeah, I would say just the obvious up front is it came to the faith-based community. And talked about pairing the two communities based upon churches, the church and pastor and the congregation of those communities. And that was unique to me. I thought that was a better approach than perhaps trying to, I don't know, pull people together where you have to first go in and build trust with those and for them to get to know you. Why not use a pillar that's all in the community that people know? And so that was unique. And not to speak ill of the other projects, but I'm not a person that like to just meet. If you're let's lead with something to do or something we have accomplished. Sarah's been great with that. And I don't mind homework when the homework is going to be something, there's something going to come out of it good. And so that in itself was just unique, the way that she brought it to us and presented it to us. And again, brought it to the faith-based community. I grew up down south in Mississippi. And I grew up in a time where the church was the center of everything. Social movement, any help that people would receive in our community, it would through the church. And so to me, this was really going back home in starting with the churches coming together and bringing people together, resources together. So it was just unique in that way, and it appealed to me. And again, I know that the uniqueness of the person that's heading it, Sarah was passionate about doing this, and you could really feel that and see that. So that was appealing.
Yeah. Well, let's bring Sarah and Tim into the conversation now that you have kind of listened to Pastor Hightower. Not that it's new to you, but you know, to sit here and reflect in conversation with me about this experience that you presented to them. How does it feel, and what are your thoughts about it, Sarah?
Sure. Before I respond, I just want to let everybody know that we are seeing the comments and questions in the chat, and we will
get
to those. I just don't want anybody to feel like we haven't addressed it yet. So we will get to
please
those.
put the questions in the chat. Yes, and we'll refer to that in a few minutes.
So my response to that is the thing that we wanted to hold true for this project or initiative is we wanted our volunteers, we wanted our pastors to lead the way. We wanted to be able to provide the platform and maybe the structure and the resources, but we didn't want to be the ones leading this. We often found that it's an organization that does that, you know, good intentions and all, but we didn't want to be that organization. We didn't want to be that program that took the lead and told people what they needed to do. And so this was great because everything we have done has been driven by the pastors and the volunteers. And so where we go with this will also be driven by the pastors and the volunteers. And we want to keep that spirit alive, that, you know, we're here to start it, support it, you know, keep it going, but the most important people should be driving it. And so I saw that, which was fantastic. And I look forward to continue seeing that too.
And what about you, Tim? What do you feel about this process and experience? And I'm not sure if one of the parks or if parks in each of the neighborhoods was a stop or destination, but hopefully it was.
I hope so as well. What was interesting for me was that I think first and foremost, just in essence, kind of being like a fly on the wall and just letting, you know, neighbors from both churches just speak openly. And one of the things for me in particular was as the conversation started flowing, as what was mentioned earlier, there were quite a few similarities in terms of topics brought about in both neighborhoods. I think, and this was one of the things I tried to answer in one of the chat. We could have easily just got two groups together and just gave them mountains and mountains of data in terms of here's the demographics of your neighborhood, here's the demographics of that versus what the city looks like as a whole. We wanted, I think it was very valuable just to have that initial, here's where I live, let's come together and talk about things. And I think that was just one of the core fundamental things. And again, just hearing the stories. Housing stock, I mean, the size of the housing stock, sizes of lots, very similar. I would guess that, a lot of the homes are probably built roughly in the same, time frame in both neighborhoods. But again, like was mentioned earlier, now that we've, some of these houses are getting, up in age, what's happening in terms of the upkeep, or what's happening in terms of the neighborhood turning over to that next, cycle of home ownerships. And that was one of the things that, that I recall hearing in terms of, now this person that's been, longstanding in a neighborhood, now they're going to someone, is a new family going to come in, or is it going to become a rental property? I think there were concerns about that in both neighborhoods. The public infrastructure was, brought up again, roads, sidewalks, things of that nature. Concerns about noise. I mean, both neighborhoods, they're both for the most part kind of bounded by major collector streets. So when there's for example, noise from police cars zipping through the area, or ambulance coming through, so that was one of the things too. I think one of the things, and Sneak, I think what you experienced in Chicago is that I think a lot of people, there's just a lot of key fundamental quality of life things that a lot of people just want. They want a nice neighborhood. They want to be able to live somewhere in peace with quality neighborhood, nice neighbors, and just be part of be one piece of a thriving community. So those are some of the takeaways that I had.
And I just wanted to add real quick to what Tim said about all the different stats that we could have provided, because initially we were going to go in there. We were going to go in there and say, this is the median income, this is the education level, this is this. And it was actually through our mentorship with you, Tanika and Maria, that was like, you know what? Let's really just focus on relationship. And after I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? You are right, because we only care about the faces behind the numbers when we know who those faces are and we have relationship with them. So I, for one, am so glad that we didn't go in there and we're like, okay, here's the data, and, we'll probably get to that, but the focus has been relationships, and I'm glad that we stuck with that.
No, I'm really happy that everyone involved just came to the simple decision of, let's just get to know each other, because there was already a shared commonality. And sometimes the data, all of those things can get in the way. And, building a relationship with people can help make the data mean something more than it would have otherwise. And I think that you all are a shining example of that, and a really great demonstration of the process of building empathy and connections. And I think this faith-based community was a great way to kind of initiate the Folded Map project in Rockford. And I'm really excited to see where the relationship goes, what happens after the pulpit swap. Who knows? It might be some event that you all host together for the rest of the community, or maybe it's a protest you all are going to do to the municipal entities there, saying we both want whatever it is that both communities need. So I'm really excited to see where it goes. One of the expansions of Folded Map here that I do want to share with you all, Wade and Nanette, who you all saw in the media clip, it was not a requirement for them to become close friends. I told them, you could stop talking to each other after this experience. It's totally up to you. But they decided to, not even decided, they wanted to remain friends. And now they have known each other for over 4 years, and they expanded the project into block twins. They actually introduced their neighbors to each other. And that was something that I would have never thought of. I was just grateful to have people who wanted to be involved in the project before, it became something that the larger public was aware of. So for them to expand it to include block twins, was really touching, and I'm excited to see you all just continue to get to know each other. And I guess now maybe it would be a great time for us to answer some of the questions in the chat, but I would love for people, if they are comfortable, to open up and feel free to come on camera or go off of mute to ask some questions that you might have. I believe Tim kind of addressed 2 of the answers in the chat, so maybe we can move forward with any questions that you all might have, or it doesn't even have to be a question. This is a conversation amongst friends, new friends. We're building relationships here. So even if it's just a comment, you all may be sharing why you're even with us tonight, and what are some of the takeaways, or what resonates with you all here that are listening to this conversation. So I'll give you a few seconds to decide if you want to come off camera or share a question or comment.
Looks like Deanna Rose has her hand raised and would like to either have questions or comments.
And then it looked like after that, Miss Norma, were you waving or were you? Okay, so we'll go to Miss Norma after that.
No, first of all, I have a comment, and it goes to what Pastor Hightower stated earlier. And I'm from the South also. And the nucleus of everything was the faith-based community. So I'm excited by the fact that somebody finally realized that, if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over, you're going to get the same results. Somebody finally realized that there is an established nucleus within every community, and that is the faith-based community. So why not go to that particular basis? And so that's what's exciting for me about that. My question is, I have several questions, but I'm just going to do one right now. And that is, do both communities plan to be collaborative in addressing elected officials? Because some of the areas that you talked about, resources and lack of resources, inequity in resources in neighborhoods, goes back to elected officials. Because all aldermen are given X amount of money to enhance their communities. So do you plan to have a collaborative effort to hold the elected officials accountable for the lack of these resources in the neighborhoods?
That is a great, spicy question. And I have a project that helps bring that conversation to the forefront here in Chicago. So I definitely understand just throwing it out there. After we build these personal connections and realize the commonalities and become aware of these differences. And we're all very clear that, you know, it is due to the history of systemic segregation and racism, which no one here created these systems. So, you know, to Ms. Walker's point, has that come up in conversation in the group, in the, you know, walks that you all had, you know, actually holding some elected officials accountable, or having some letter writing campaign where you all, you know, kind of express to them what's going on? Has that come up, Pastor Hightower?
I defer to Pearl. I don't know. I haven't heard it come up out of the conversation that came back to me. I had time where we allowed the members to go and walk and not try to give assignments to do. But that has not come up. But I can see the need, and I certainly can see where it can grow to that. We have a strong neighborhood association, Westgate coalition, that actually handles a lot of that political. And we certainly, we agree with them on a lot of the issues that they are tackling now. Right now with Foley Maps, we are, I would say, just in the relationship building stage right now.
No, that's important to.
I definitely see it, you know, in the future. That's, we can't help but, because you got to hold the ones that hold the money. You got to hold them accountable.
Well, the reason I say that, Pastor Hightower, is because I'm a member of West Gateway Coalition. So
right.
I'm one of those radical people that in your face,
I know. You know, I know.
And I'll let you stay in the background and be nice, and I'll just be out there being in the forefront, being the radical.
So maybe maybe Ms. Walker got to get involved in the community group and suggested as a, maybe that's the next step. Finding your fellow accomplices from the other neighborhoods. Say, who wants to help me be a radical? No, it's all a part of the journey. And, you know, maybe this is, you know, something you can take back to the group. I'm going to hand it over to Miss Norma.
Thank you so much. Hello to everybody on here. I just want to say, even according to that, is that it's all about relationship. You know, as we want to be careful too that we don't start like ganging up, but we get together to have one voice. You know, to get one voice and then come into a relationship. Like Alderwoman April Putney, she's done a tremendous work right now. She's a 6th Ward alderwoman, and she has gone into the great neighborhoods too in the area. And it's about getting to know them, you know, getting to know the aldermen. And I believe that even this year, the mayor really has mobilized the aldermen too, to get into the community as well. So it's like we're coming up together, every joint supplying, you know, and I just want to say, I love the work that is happening, but we just have to be careful that we don't start doing accusations, and build relationships. And once we can get in their face, but we can get to the point where, what is the issue? How can we have an answer, you know, to this issue that's happening? And I'm really excited. This year has been awesome. I think the pandemic showed us one thing: we need each other, and we need relationship. I think that's something so important. And even though we have differences, and even though, you know, we have seen things not go right, we want to go towards going right. And I believe that this is just a start. Again, I've been involved in some of the neighborhood projects around our church. I've gotten to know Pastor Sanji, Pastor Violet, which I would have never known if I didn't join that group and things like that. So it's just been exciting, even though we have different perspectives on things. We can be friends, we can love each other, we can try to answer, because at the end of the day, we want a better community. We want to be able to walk our streets. We want to be able to see everybody prosper, not just one side of town prosper. And so I'm very excited about this. I think it's just the beginning of things as we come together. And I mean, that's just the first step. I commend Reverend Hightower and Pastor Peter as well to start this off with us, that they have been the first to do it, and they're building relationship. And I have not met him, Pastor Hightower, personally, but I hear his name all the time in arenas of doing good for our community. So it's good to meet him on here today. But I'm excited about it's the key, relationship. Yeah. Relationship, even if it's a bad relationship, we can work to make a good relationship. Because the thing about it, it's evident. We're seeing it now. But if we don't have a voice, if we don't open our mouth, then nothing's going to happen. But I'm telling you, when you start caring for those communities, even people that are causing trouble in that area wake up and say, hey, they're coming here now. They're caring about this community. I've seen that on 11th Street, where we started doing a 11th Street corridor, and all kinds of stuff was happening on that street. But now that we paid attention to it, went over there and cleaned some areas up over there, it was like, we can't do this here, because people are caring for that community. So I'm so blessed to be on here. I love the passion of Miss Walker. I love to have her on my team anytime, because she can get to the source of the issue. So I thank God for being here on this tonight. It's been very interesting, and I appreciate everything that is happening in this city right now. Thank you.
Well, thank you. You are getting some accolades and props in the chat, calling you Pastor Norma on the virtual pulpit tonight. Did anybody else want to share comments, just how this makes them feel, or if they have any questions, not only about the project, the expansion of it that you all are embarking on, but if you have any questions for me, I do want to just offer that up as an opportunity for you all to ask. Otherwise, I do have more questions, but I will give you just a few seconds to maybe even think about what you would like to share, and how this is, making you feel.
Mm-hmm. Miss Tanika, I did have one comment, and then there was a couple comments I wanted to address in the chat too. So yeah, so we did make this project available to our aldermen and women in each of the wards, and we also made this opportunity available to the county board members as well. And so Tim Neighbors, who's a county board member, has been a part of this and has been following along as best as he can with his schedule. And Alderman Jonathan Logeman has also, he has a lot of different things going on, but I have kept him up to date, and he has had, we have had his full support on this project as well. So when we tackled this, we all sat down and thought about who do we need to let know this is going on and give them an opportunity to be at the table. And so I just wanted to bring those two names up.
Oh, thank you for that.
And then I got a direct question that was, how will the folded map process spur development on the west side?
Well, obviously I can't say specifically, but to Norma's point and everyone's point, that's something that from my observation of how things have gone in Chicago amongst MAP twins, it's a process, and usually the relationship kind of determines how those individuals will go about kind of raising awareness of what they want to see in a particular community. The MAP twins in Chicago, once they introduced their neighbors to each other, they started to have meetings with the neighbors from each side of town, and they decided to create a group called Inglewood Renaissance. And the reason they decided to name it Inglewood Renaissance is because the neighbors from each of the racially different, economically different communities became very aware that the disinvestment was significant in Inglewood, and they wanted to help. And so they came together to first start doing beautification in Inglewood with the Inglewood residents where they wanted to. And now they're trying to explore ways of, helping people become homeowners in Greater Inglewood. And so I just wanted to offer that as an example of, how it's a slow building momentum to an eventual goal of, trying to help bring development and investment into a community. There's many different ways to go about bringing awareness and efforts for that. So I'll, give the stage back to Pastor Hightower if he would like to maybe answer that question. That's a big question, though.
It is.
And as you said, we're in the relationship building phase. It is totally okay to remind people of that, because sometimes, with projects, people want like action and different kind of results so soon. And this is why I love being able to fall back on the fact that you can say, this is an art project. And we're just, being, art lovers and supporters right now. We're being friends right now. Because as always, there is beauty that comes together when people congregate with a loving, empathetic intention. So I do just want to elevate your point, Pastor Hightower. This is a relationship building phase.
Just before I answer that, if I can, let me let Ms. Pearl, she had something to say about the comments earlier.
Mm-hmm.
The program, I think, is going to be real good for both sides. The people was genuine, and my pastor is a hardworking man, and he is very concerned about the community and about people in general. So I am happy that, the program is where it's at. And like I say, he keeps us abreast of what's going on in the neighborhood and other neighborhoods. So like he had the Project 13, and he always worked for the good of the area and the good of the church. On that note, I'm going home.
Bye, Miss Pearlie. There is a question in the chat. I'm not sure. Maybe it's directed to me. Are the principles of community organization traditionally attributed to Saul Alinsky involved in any way? If you are directing that to me, no, I'm very familiar with him and his, organizing work. There's a lot of organizations and groups here that are influenced by his work. I'm not, because I didn't learn about his the history of his organizing strategies until much later in in my adulthood. But as a Chicagoan, when you begin to do any kind of, not even community organizing, but just become an active resident in your community, his name starts to come up. And so that's the way in which I became familiar with him. But the principles of this particular project are solely rooted in my experience, the things in my life that have shown me how I have built my own empathy and how I have sustained relationships and friendships across different racial and economic divides, and me just, being reflective and identifying attributes in people that I have strong relationships with. And one of the primary principles is just, curiosity, for one, and valuing the space of relationship building, knowing that even if you do have a goal, even if the goal is to have community development, understanding that the process towards reaching that goal is just as important as the goal itself, because you learn so much about people. So this project isn't directly influenced at all by Sal Alinsky's organizing work.
And then Tanika, I just wanted to add that another reason why I believe this project spoke to us is because Great Neighborhoods is built on a model called ABCD of community development. So it's asset-based community development, where you focus on the existing strengths of what's going on. And so your project really speaks to that. We turned to our existing strengths, which was people, to start this whole thing. So that's where our roots of organizing comes from that model.
No, thank you for sharing that. Look, I don't even look. It's Saul Alinsky. See, told you I didn't know who I'm. Not Sal. Saul.
Yeah, I more or less have a comment. I appreciate what everybody has said here. Being a West Sider and returning home after 35 years of living in Chicago and Cleveland, and I appreciate the leadership that Sarah shows and the courage to lead this discussion. But being born and raised on the West Side, I've walked down West State Street since it's opened up. And the community has to begin to ask, what is the vision for the renewal of our community? Yeah, we got some issues here. We're a population of 150,000 people, where everybody knows everybody. And until we can get together on unity and solidarity and build strong coalitions like what's happening in this faith-based community, we're not going to see the success of our community until that happens. Yeah, relationships are important, but we got to be about the action. The action is critical.
Yes, and I definitely think that action is easier when the relationship is strong and has a solid foundation of empathy and shared experiences, and doing exactly what you all are doing, which is identifying these similarities. And when I mention similarities, not just similarities in personality traits or whatever, but really identifying the similarities in community, because that is, from what I've experienced, very key to building a movement around shared or just solidarity in general. People understanding that, yes, no, we do want the same things, and it has not been distributed equally or fairly. And, I think this is a a critical aspect. And long as everyone knows that, you know, at some point action can and should happen, but really giving room and space for this period to create a foundation is key. And, you know, action is still going on around in other areas and other groups as well. So all of it has to happen at the same time. And it's really important for people like you to, you know, always be the reminder, like, okay, just, you know, just to let you all know, we want to do some action as well.
That's a
So
lot of work to be. That's a lot of work.
it is, you know, that's why, you know, the relationship building part, it's a lot of work and it's long work, but it definitely is deeply valuable. I'll just share one example that kind of helped me affirm this point. My friend from high school, the first person of Guatemalan descent I had ever met as a Black girl from a predominantly Black neighborhood in Chicago. My friend Andre Vasquez, him and I met in high school. We, you know, loved some of the same music. We kept in touch. Of course, college happened. Didn't keep in touch as much. Then when we got older in our little professional lives, we ran into each other again, but we kept in touch that way. And, you know, 20 years after high school, I'm an artist doing work that kind of helps people process and understand systemic racism and segregation. And he decided to run for alderman in the neighborhood that he lives in on the north side. And now he is a co-lead of a new subcommittee in our city's council for reparations. And he's a supporter of the work that I do. And the MAP twins that are in my project hosted an event, and he came to it and told you know, residents in his north side ward about it, and they attended. And, you know, I just wanted to share that to show how relationships is a long game as well. And had Andre and I didn't value or have that friendship in high school, it wouldn't have been as easy for us to connect 20 years later in our new, I would like to believe, you know, ordained roles in our own lives, to come together for what we are both passionate about, which is relationships and solidarity and correcting historic wrongs. So I don't want people to feel like if it takes long or 2 years or 3 years that it's like nothing is happening. That is still something. And that's part of what the Folded Map Project hopes to help remind people of, is that, you know, you have people who protest, you have people that advocate for political action, you have people who do all kinds of things to ignite change. But I really wanted to help people understand the power and importance of just relationship building, because you can't do any of those things without relationships. Relationships is what help build movements, and to the point where people like Saul Alinsky can create theories about it, because it starts with relationships. And so Folded Map is just one way to help people who might not want to get in the streets and protest, who might not be just as politically minded, for them to feel like they're contributing to change by disrupting segregation with building relationships. It's really important, and it's just as much of a long game as anything else. And what you all are doing here tonight in this group is really important, hearing and listening to each other and really advocating for this project to continue to expand within this faith-based community is really great. And it will always and forever be a point of reference for when that action does happen. you can always refer to this experience here. And I just want to thank you all so much. And I want to hand it over to Sarah to maybe close us out or offer you all an opportunity to share any closing comments. And thank you again. It was such a pleasure to meet you all and hear about this wonderful experience that I know at times can probably be awkward, but hey, that's the process of learning, you know? People say and do awkward things when they have not had the experience of of doing it before. So I'll hand it over to you, Sarah.
Appreciate your comments.
Well, thank you, Jeffrey.
Thanks, Tanika. Just real quick, I wanted to honor Miss April Prunty. She had posted a comment in our chat, and she's also an alderwoman here in our community. She had talked about describing, you know, senior services on both sides of town and how we would rate those and things like that. And so kind of the theme of this conversation is we are in the relationship building space right now, but I think all the comments that were brought forward gives our group some things to think about for sure. I know that when you're not used to being the person to take the reins and go, it's like, well, what should we do? And so again, we always put it back. We always push it back. We always say, you know, what is it that you guys want to do? And, you know, let's work on it. But so I just wanted to honor her comments and just say that these are all great for us because now we have a lot of, I guess, talking points the next time we get together and gather. I think something else that I would like to say too is we're hoping that this conversation starts spurring ideas in everybody's mind. There are so many opportunities to map twin in our community. And the way our community is set up is, of course, different than Chicago. So it doesn't necessarily have to be directly across from you. But of course, the encouragement is picking somewhere that's maybe racially or economically different from where you're at. And so if you're somebody, if you're in a neighborhood, if you're part of a school, a business, maybe another church that would like to take part in this, feel free to reach out to me. We have a whole core team that works behind the scenes. So we would love to be able to speak with anybody who's interested in doing this. As you can see, maybe it sounds kind of intimidating, but it's really not. It's really not, especially if the heart of what this is relationship. And then I think as we keep going forward, you're able to walk into a room and really speak from your heart, whether it is a tough conversation or not. So if you're somebody who's interested in taking part of the Folded Map Project, definitely reach out to me. I have emailed everybody the Zoom information, so you should have my email address automatically. And then, of course, we will be sharing the replay of this, so then you'll get another touch point from me about that. And then I guess before I do our drawing, so with our summits, we do offer $250 gift cards for somebody. Yeah, and the idea is to give a resource to somebody who wants to do something in their neighborhood. So there is an application that you fill out. You'll let me know, of course, what it is that you're using it for. But the idea is to give a little seed money to do something, whether it's a project or an activity that you want to do for your neighborhood. So I guess before I draw those names, is there any other comments, any other questions that you have for the panel, Tanika, myself?
Appreciate your leadership, Sarah.
Thanks, Jeff.
I just want to commend you on leadership and also looking for innovative ways to enhance our neighborhoods, maybe from a different perspective. I was built in the John Lewis mold, and you know, it's in me and my DNA, you know, to make good trouble. But you also have to have people that are silent. So
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you.
Hey, Sarah.
Yes, Tim.
I'd like to just briefly make a couple comments before we close. One of the things as well, as far as building the relationships, I think is crucial to make mention of as well, is when we're building relationships with people, we get to a stage as well that we become comfortable in holding each other accountable as well. So I think that's one of the things that hopefully we won't lose sight of. And it's, whether it's, the relationship. I see three main parts of the community. I see the community at large. I see the public sector, government, if you will, and the private sector. And I think as all these relationships of those three parts in particular, as the relationships build, they will hold, that provides that opportunity to hold each other accountable and make the community better as a whole. And the other thing that I just wanted to make mention, by profession, my profession and my background is in urban planning. And I'm not sure how many people know or not know that Tanika and Dr. Maria, they were recognized by my professional organization, American Planning Association, for a folded map. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
And that, in addition to the national recognition that you started us off this evening, but that to me goes to the example of, government can come in and say, here's what needs to happen, what should happen. To me, folded map is the opportunity, again, that grassroots of here's a starting point. You're in this neighborhood, you live, breathe, walk in this neighborhood. Let's use this as an opportunity to take your neighborhood to the next step. So that's just something I wanted to get out there. So
Thank you for that, Tim. And just to kind of extend your point of the potential impossibility of really making steps towards quote unquote real or systemic change. Folded Map debuted as a project, as an art exhibit in 2018. And just recently, Folded Map, the nonprofit, it's grown into a nonprofit since then, recently partnered with the City of Chicago's new equity office to make our Folded Map action kit available to all Chicagoans. In addition to that, my current project, Inequity for Sale, as well as Folded Map, garnered me an invitation to serve on Chicago's Department of Planning and Development's new steering committee for Black Chicago Heritage, for their Black Chicago Heritage Initiative that aims to focus on preservation in historically disinvested Black communities. So, just even within that time frame, this work that I'm doing that has, you all as another shining example of the potential of it, has allowed me to be put in spaces and conversations to bring this kind of awareness and to serve as a bridge to make some changes within the built environment of my home neighborhood. So I do want to just let you all know that as well. Folded Map, as a nonprofit, was recently granted a large grant award to extend the work that I'm doing in partnership with Maria and the Chicago Bungalow Association, which is an association that helps homeowners. Through that partnership, as a result of these projects connecting me to people, we're now working together to provide grants to help existing homeowners much like you all who are older in my home neighborhood that can't afford home repairs, which kind of perpetuates the cycle of all of these systemic issues. And the grant dollars that we receive will be able to give back to homeowners on a specific block to help them do some repairs. So, you know, action or change might not look like what we think initially, but it definitely occurs. And so I just wanted to kind of let you all know of some of the additional expansions and municipal collaborations that have happened just by way of this project, and to, you know, offer you all just some hope that, you know, when you focus on the right thing, great things happen and connections are made, and people remember the authenticity and the genuine nature, and want to, you know, collaborate for action. And that's what has happened with myself, Maria, and the people that we've been working with, just like you all.
Yeah. Appreciate that. You've given me hope, my sister.
That's what it's for, because, you know, like you said, it's a lot of work and sometimes it makes you feel hopeless, but you know,
well, like Jesse said, keep hope alive, and I'm keeping it alive as a West Sider, baby.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Tanika. I did want to share, now that you said the folded map action kit, we do have that in a PDF version that we can send out along with the replay, so everybody can take a peek at kind of the guidelines that we've been using to walk through conversations, some of the activities. So I could be sure to send that out. And before we close, I'm going to tell you, we actually get to pick 4 names. We've combined last quarter and this quarter's summit together. So we actually have 4 gift cards to hand out, and those individuals were picked at random. Just want to share that. Mary Doe Hare is one of our winners. Jeff Bailey is one of our winners. Magdalene Collins, hope I said that correct. She is one of our winners. And then finally, Aaliyah Santos is one of our winners. So congratulations, you guys. I'll be reaching out individually to give you that application and kind of talk through what you want to use your gift card for. So
I already know Jeff is going to use it for some action.
That's right. That's exactly right.
You got that right. I want to donate it to somebody in the community.
I'm right there with you, Jeff.
Please.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, thank you again to everybody who came here tonight. I want to give a special thank you, of course, to Tanika and Maria. You guys have been so wonderful to work with. Your mentorship and your direction for all of this has been more than I could hope for. So I want to thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. And of course, Tim Bragg from the Rockford Park District, he has been instrumental. He's also our data guy amongst everything else that he does. Want to thank Pastor Hightower. He was the first one to say yes. And actually he gave me hope from where I was at when I started approaching people. So thank you, Pastor Hightower. And then of course, Pastor Rob from Our Saviors. He was the other person who, no questions asked, jumped on board. So just want to say thank you to everybody. Again, you should all have my contact information. If any questions come up in the meantime and you have something for me or something I could forward on to Tanika and Maria, be more than happy to do that. But at this time, this concludes our summit for Great Neighborhoods. And we thank you, everybody, and have a great night.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.